Hello and welcome to the tradesight U.S. stocks and futures market preview and domestic economic data roadmap for the week beginning Monday, February 9th, 2015, and ending Friday the 13th, 13th Friday. Let's talk about what's happened, where the markets are. We'll look at what happened this last week, intraday in the markets. Look over the economic data that's coming out this next week and get ourselves a game plan. Charts as usual brought to you by eSignal 12. Here's a look at the ES front month futures contract. This is the daily chart with the qualifier on the seeker. Would have had another sell signal, but we have to get a close above the 8th candle. So have not had that happen yet. You can see the asterisk. If I go to projection mode, that means that we're close to a sell signal. We need to get above bar 8. If you go back and look at that bar, a close above that will then give us the ultimate seeker sell signal on the market for now, and see what that turns into. Other than that, so far, markets have been very flat this year. We're basically right where we closed out December, very close to it at any rate. We actually, boy, today's close, Friday's close is exactly where the end of the year was. So here's the S&P 500 cash index. It's basically looking at the same thing as the other chart. Here's a look at the NASDAQ 100 index. No counts underway at the moment here except for a new startup phase. Really, this has been flat since December started. I mean, we're only in a 200-point range, and that's relatively mild compared to what we saw most of last year. So that's a long time, 2 months plus to be in that range. Here's the SOX index, also working towards a 13 signal, but it would have to get again above bar 8, which means about 690 to get that actual signal the way we like it with the qualifier. Biotech index, look at that support it found right on that red static trend line from the count back in December. So that's going to be a solid line if we head back down there. We'll take a look here at the VIX also. Coming back to 1729, up a little bit on Friday, but down for the week after finding resistance at that green static trend line. Here's a look at crude oil, closing back up above 52 after dipping as low as 44 just a week and a half ago. So making its way back up a bit. Note that green wall just above 56. That's the static trend line. It's going to be tough to get through. Probably the first point of failure on the crude oil. And here's a look at gold. Dropped sharply on Friday. Let's look at some of the big trading stocks that are out there. Google's had a relatively tame start to the year. Apple, really tame, had a nice pattern for a breakout over 120 and has just been sitting there now for 3 days basically. Here's a look at Amazon, which was up after their earnings and continues to press higher, although it was flat on Friday. Here's a look at Netflix, been flat for about a week, also after gapping up on earnings near the highs for that stock. Tesla climbing back up, another stock that we trade often, and Facebook, here's one we shorted on Friday, made some money. This thing could have, if it breaks that red line, it's got a long ways to go to the downside. Baidu, another one we traded Friday on the short side and made some money on, breaking a recent trend, although watch the pink risk line from the seeker buy signal on that one. All right. So now let's go to the ES futures contract, and let's go to 10-minute bars so we can see most of the week or all the week here and what happened. A lot of tame days. We had a decent Monday, a little wiggling. Tuesday we gapped up. Monday we basically gapped up a little, filled the gap. We went both ways, closed pretty strong, had a decent day. Tuesday gapped up, ended up having a good trading day, but it was a couple of stocks. Costco in particular broke out and ran for us. And was a real nice winner for over 5 points. But the trading session was very just meandering. Wednesday was even more meandering, just sideways action, closed with not any gaps. The only gap we left behind is Tuesday morning's gap from Monday's close. And actually, no, that's not true. Thursday morning, we gapped up from Wednesday's close, and we have not yet filled that gap. Friday, small gap up, and then filled it in the afternoon. Ended up closing even for the day. Total range for the week, high to low, is about almost exactly 100 points, called 97 points or so on the S&P. And let's look at the NASDAQ side now. A little more volatile. Monday was wild, which was good for us. Tuesday's gap filled on the NASDAQ side. Wednesday's gap filled, of course. Thursday's gap has now not quite filled. We almost got down there late in the day on Friday. Friday was, tame. So, it's just a general trend from late Monday until mid-Friday with a slight upward bias and nothing urgent. That's what we saw all week. Volume was decent the whole time. We did see NASDAQ volume, I did forget to show you that chart, start to tick up on average. So the daily chart of NASDAQ volume You can see the blue line is the 10-day moving average. It's gotten up to 1.9 billion. That's the highest of the year so far, which is good because we had a couple of days here around the 2 billion share mark for the week. So at any rate, let's take a look now at economic data that's coming out during this week ahead, and let's also focus on the fact that next weekend, Monday, is a holiday. It's the U.S. President's Day holiday, which means that stock markets are closed a week from this Monday. And of course, Valentine's Day is this next Saturday. So this Friday will probably be very light heading into a 3-day weekend. It's not options expiration, unfortunately. You'd love to have that line up and be the same day as going into a 3-day weekend and get the doldrums out of the way. But that means that the following Friday, which is the 20th, which is expiration, is also probably going to be pretty slow. And we'll be dealing with the options unraveling phenomenon not this week, but next week. So here's what we got for data. Monday, nothing. Tuesday, wholesale inventories and JOLTS job openings 30 minutes into the market. Neither is a big deal. Wednesday, the NBA mortgage index, crude oil inventories, treasury budget, not a big deal. Thursday, initial and continuing jobless claims, that's the weekly data. Retail sales, business inventories, and natty gas. None of that's a huge deal. Friday, import-export prices, and first look at Michigan sentiment for February. So again, it's Friday the 13th. I don't see anything on here that's going to rock the market. We just had a bunch of big data this last week with the trade balance, the unemployment rate. We had a Fed meeting 2 weeks ago. End of month was behind us in January. So there's nothing really holding us back, but there's also nothing that's going to rock or shake the market, which means it should be just a clean week. I would again focus on the way it usually plays out. Monday could be okay, but maybe a little lighter. The main institutional days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday is usually the lightest day of the week, and probably even more lighter than normal heading into that 3-day weekend. So hopefully we get some great days Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but we'll certainly be on it Monday morning, as we usually are in our trading lab. If you've never taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. Charts, as usual, as I said, brought to you by eSignal. If you do find these videos useful, please like us on YouTube. It does help us out. Have a great weekend. Have a great trading week. Happy Valentine's Day to all next Saturday.